Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So it happened so many times that one of my children will do something they're not supposed to in the morning, not listening, or one of the things that children do. So they'll be given the consequence. You're not going to get your show this evening. Oy, oy, oy. And then the evening comes, right? And it's time for the show. And is it no show or is it show? So the kid will come look at me and say, well, kind of, what will it be? Are you going to keep to what you said or not? And I know if I say no, then... But this is what happens to Moses in our portion this week. So Moses is finally coming to the end of the 40 years of traveling in the desert. It's the end of all the travels. And it's been a difficult 40 years. All the things have happened. The beginning of the parsha, there's this whole episode where the Midianites invade the camp and have a great big idolatry fest, and Pinchas stops it with a spear. Not a lot of fun. Then there's a slightly better event. The daughters of Tzlofchad want to inherit the land, and daughters not allowed to inherit. But anyway, finally we come to the end of the road. There's no more big episodes in their travels. They're there at the border of the promised land. They're there. So God says to Moses, go up the mountain and you'll see all the land I'm going to give the people. So Moses must have thought, well, a few years ago, God said to me, I can't go into the land because I hit the rock. And is God going to keep to that? Am I going to have to stay behind and not realize all my dreams? What is God going to do? So then God continues and he says, well, when you have seen it, you shall be gathered to your kin, just like your brother Aaron, i.e. you're not going to see it. And he adds, because when the people were contentious, you disobeyed my command to uphold my sanctuary at the waters of Zin. So what does Moses say to this disappointment? Usually God speaks to Moses, and the Torah says God spoke to Moses. But here Moses speaks to God. He tells God, let Adonai, source of all flesh, appoint someone over the community. So Moses doesn't say, oh God, how could you do this to me? I've been so good since you gave me that punishment. Can't you change it? But he doesn't think in that way. He only thinks of his people. So he says, Adonai, can you appoint someone of quality who shall go out before them and come in before them, who will take care of them and bring them in, so that Adonai's community shall not be like sheep without a shepherd. So he doesn't care about seeing the fruits of all of his life's work. He doesn't care about finally seeing the object of his travels. He doesn't argue. This is the kind of person that Moses was, the kind of leader that he is. What he thinks about is his service to other people, his service to the Jewish people and to God. It's like a shepherd with a flock of sheep, as he himself says. This is why in our tradition we have this fondness for shepherds, right? And all the patriarchs and matriarchs were shepherds, and King David was a shepherd, and Moses was a shepherd, because they care so much for their sheep. That's what you want. That's what makes a good leader. You care for your sheep. So over the 40 years of wandering, despite all the difficulties, Moses loved every one of those people in his charge. He didn't want his life's work to disappear by not having an appropriate leader to replace him. So he worried for them. Every part of him was scared about it. He'd given so much all those years. He sacrificed his own relationships to help all of them. He didn't think of himself. And this is what it means to be a true spiritual leader, a true leader. I think of Presidents Lincoln and Washington, great leaders of this nation, how they gave everything despite terrible criticism, right? Lincoln, beginning of the Civil War, they thought, he's too young and inexperienced. How can he lead us through war? And Washington, who after several defeats at the beginning of the war, everybody thought he was a failed general and they tried to replace him. In the end, they cared so much for their soldiers and their people, and they were recognized as such. This is the way of all great leaders. So in these 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av, we think about our limitations. And the leaders of the Second Temple time, we think about the destruction of the temples. They were corrupt, the priesthood was corrupt, everybody was infighting. And that's how it leads to disaster. Moses cared for his people so much he wasn't thinking about Moses, he was thinking about how can I find a good replacement in Joshua. And God found someone for him. May we be blessed so too. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please rise for Aleinu, page 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עזנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים